Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us again. My name is Kasha Baldus. I am the sponsor care manager here at IRA Club, and with me is Dennis Blitz, the president. We are so excited to have you join us for another podcast where we will be talking about self-directed IRAs and just some tips to think about before you are going to retire. This is a big stepping stone in our lives. So I think it's really important that we take some time to maybe ask some questions that are going to make a big difference in the next chapter of your life. So thanks again for being here, and I will let Dennis take it away.
Well, thank you, Kasha. All right, what we're going to do first is I want to take a moment before we start the presentation or the discussion just to talk about the $6,000 increase in Social Security. There's a lot of confusion about that. We can sure understand why, because politicians and our president keeps talking about a $6,000 increase in Social Security, and people are sitting here saying, okay, when do I get the $6,000? And the fact of the matter is that's kind of misleading. So let me talk about that $6,000 increase, which is not really an increase. And so you are better prepared for that as it comes along. So number one is Social Security did have a cost of living increase coming into 2025. That was 2.5%. Now, you may say that, gee, I go shopping, I go to the store, cost of living went up more than 2.5%. It doesn't matter. The government said it went up 2.5%. It's 2.5% increase in your Social Security, and mine too. So that's the first thing. It's based on COLA, which is not 2.5% either. Okay, the 2.5% gave you, for most people, an increase of about $50 per year. The average amount that people get, if we took all the Social Security recipients, is really right about $1,980 a month. You could be more or less, just that's the average. So we're going to talk about clarify the $6,000 increase a little more carefully. The $6,000 increase, as I said, is not an increase at all. What it is a $6,000 deduction in your income. So if you're over 65, you get to reduce your income by $6,000 on your Form 1040. And then pay tax on that lower amount. So if you're in a 20% income tax bracket, that's going to save you about $1,200 a year. A higher income tax bracket might save you a little bit more. So that is what the $6,000 is about. That's the first thing. The second thing is it's not, of course, for everyone. And there is some rationale to that. So if you're single and you make above $175,000 a year, you can't take the $6,000 deduction. If you're married and filing jointly and make over $250,000 a year, you cannot take the $6,000 deduction. So that's what the $6,000 is. It's a deduction. It's very nice, but it's not $6,000 more. One more thing we need to talk about that $6,000 that seems to be left out in all the conversations is it's not permanent. It is through tax year 2028. And so just for a few years, we're going to get this benefit. And I'm not knocking the benefit. I'm just knocking the way that it's being presented. Okay. All right. Let's talk about retirement. And this discussion is really more about preparing for retirement than anything else. And so we're going to talk about that. And the first thing that I want to think about is retirement is, as Kasha just said, a big step for all of us. And most of us don't spend very much time thinking about it. A lot of people will tell me, gee, I'm going to retire, July 1st of, next year or whatever. And then the conversation stops. And it's not July 1st for next year. And I want to do this, or I want to do that, or we just don't think through the amount of time that we're going to have on our hands. So we want to ask ourselves some questions.
And one thing that I noticed too is with some of the retirees that are in my life is that they tend to focus on just ending their career. So they're focusing on wrapping things up at work, maybe looking back at the mentors that they mentored, just making sure that all of their projects are complete and that the company that they've built or that they work for, that those people are in good hands. But oftentimes they don't really look at themselves and their families and their situations in the future. So I think the focus is work and then ending this career. But Dennis is going to really deep dive and really just stressing the importance of asking some of these questions so the next few decades are going to be comfortable for you and your family.
So one of the things that I want to ask, or I want us to ask ourselves is, what do we plan to do in retirement? Am I going to travel with my spouse? Am I not going to travel? Am I going to travel a little? Am I going to travel a lot? And make a few notes on what you're going to do and a budget guess. I live in Detroit and I always wanted to see Toledo. Well, that's really not too bad. That's pretty inexpensive. But, I live in Detroit and I want to spend 6 months in Tuscany. I've got a budget for that. So everyone's different. Think about what are your travel plans? How do you plan to travel? And make a note on that budget. Okay, number 2 is, are you going to have a paying job during retirement? Many people do. You're not going to work full time. I understand, and that makes sense. But am I going to work part time? And what might I earn if I work part time? And let's jot that down. Again, these are not things you're going to be perfect on, but jot it down is going to start building that picture for you of what things are going to be like. Okay, so number 3, I should say, is what do I plan to accomplish during retirement? Am I going to improve my golf game? Am I going to refurbish old cars? Am I going to, etc.? And there are many, many things that I could be doing, but you've got to think about those in advance. Do I want to learn to play the piano? Which, tell you the truth, I do. I don't know if I'm going to get to it, but it's going to be on my list. There are all those things that I want to accomplish. So write down what you want to accomplish during retirement. And the next thing I want to talk about is very near and dear because my wife is so deeply involved with this, and that's volunteering. Volunteering during retirement is a very, very good thing. There are studies about the topic. People who volunteer during retirement feel that their life has far more purpose. And that's good for us mentally. It's good for us. It even helps us sleep. So physically, mentally, just our own attitude. Volunteering is wonderful. And there are so many volunteering opportunities out there. Think about whether I want to volunteer or not. Okay. So, but by the way, volunteering also helps slow cognitive decline, which is precious to all of us, right? We all want to think about that. Okay, next on my notes is, do we plan to stay in our current home? Let's make a note. If I plan to stay in my current home, at least let's think about that now. Is my home paid off, or do I still have a mortgage? Let's jot down what that monthly cost is. If it's paid off, don't forget you're still going to jot down, what are my taxes per year? What's maintenance per year? What's home insurance per year? Those things will still be there. Maintenance is one people seem to forget, but maintenance is going to be there.
And one thing you and I often talk about as homeowners is that when it comes to things like appliances, it seems that things don't last like they used to.
They sure don't.
So we are replacing our refrigerators, our washers and dryers, it seems every few years. So another big thing to add to that maintenance list is just the ongoing cost of repairing and fixing and replacing appliances.
we put in a new water heater. And I remember when I was a kid, they put in a new water heater in my house, and two big men carried it downstairs. And we replaced the water heater, and it lasted forever, 30, 40 years. And we replaced the water heater in my home now, and one guy carried it downstairs, and he didn't seem to be straining too much. And they said very proudly, "This has a 7-year guarantee. I'll see you in 7 years." They just don't make them like they used to is very true. Thank you. Okay. Family responsibilities is something you want to start thinking about. And let's jot down some of these things. And by the way, I'm going to send Kasha and I will send you this list so that you can jot these things down and you don't have to, remember exactly what I'm saying. Okay. So let's go back to the family responsibilities. This will bother some of us, like I think bother most of us. And that is, according to many surveys, setting aside or earmarking $200,000 to $300,000 between 65 and the end for medical expenses is not drastically wrong. That's big dollars. So medical expenses become a big, big expense as we age. They just plain do. So is there anybody in your family, yourself or somebody in your family, that you already know you're going to have significant medical expenses? Let's jot that down, because that's going to be very important, and it's going to be very high. Are you and your spouse in good health? That's wonderful. If you're not, please jot that down. If you are divorced, by the way, and you have payments or costs because of that, jot it down, because it's going to affect other things in your life. And if you have a child who is going to require medical care, jot that down, and about how much it is. So what we're doing here is we're kind of building that picture of, gee, how much do I really, really need? Okay. And let's go on and talk about our life expectancy, because that's very important. The federal government gives us a life expectancy chart. And I can tell you, after being in this industry for some time, the life expectancy chart is rubbish. Now, not that the federal government is wrong, the federal government is correct, but what the federal government does is they take everybody into account. And you and I are not like everybody. We're different. The guy who is drinking to excess is in that mix. The person who is smoking 2 packs a day is in that pool. The person who's morbidly obese is in that pool. The person who has a high risk job is in that pool. And so the 78-year average life expectancy that the government puts out just plain doesn't apply to you or I. Right? Yeah, I'm a little overweight, but I'm not morbidly obese. No, I don't smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and I don't drink to excess. So I'm probably going to live a little longer. So the biggest thing that we can focus on as a start is, what is our family history? And then even go a step further and say, which person in the family am I most like? Am I more like my mother's side, or am I more like my father's side? Well, in my personal case, I'm more like my mother's side. Now, my grandmother passed away in the mid-70s, and she was 88 years old. That was very old in those days. And my mother passed away just 2 years ago, and she was 99. So I'm going to guess I'm going to be here for a while, and I have to allot for that. And according to the government, the 5 things that really will give us a clue as to how long we'll live are: number 1 is our family history. Number 2 is our health. If you have health issues, that has to be taken into account. Number 3, you shake your head, and yes, and then I start to say, no, it kind of makes sense, is, are you married? married people live longer than single people. And we go to the obvious next one, which is smoking. And the obvious next one after that is drinking to excess. And the obvious next one is morbidly obese. And what is the last one? I had one here. Oh, yes. I know. I keep forgetting it. Believe it or not, the next one on the list is wearing your seatbelt. So those are the lists. And, and if you don't drink to excess, if you don't, smoke, if you have longevity in your family, et cetera, you're going to be here quite a time. And there are right now, I should say, in 1950, there were 2,300 people in the United States who were age 100 or older. 2,300 people is not very many people. In the next 20 years, we will be at 500,000 people who are over age 100. So you're kind of seeing the problem that Social Security is going to have. Social Security is trying now, finally, to avoid that problem because they're slowly raising the retirement age. But they're raising it I think they should be raising it faster, but they didn't ask me. So let's go on to what you have already done. Okay. Do you have, do you work at a job that has a plan at work? Do you have a 401k? You have one of the other plans that the government offers, 403bs, 457s, thrift savings plans. Jot down what is the current balance in that plan. Jot down what you think that balance will be when you retire. Okay. What about personal accounts? Do you have an IRA? Do you have any of the other plans that are available for individuals? And again, write down what is the current balance in that plan. Jot down what you think it will be at retirement. Okay, so those two things are going to, this is really kind of what I have. Unless you also have an account called Saving for Retirement, but very few of us have an account called Saving for Retirement. And so we're really reliant on our business plan, our job plan, and our individual plans. So those will be the biggest funds that we have in many, many cases. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later. So you now have an idea of, how long you have to cover yourself for. And so I want to go on to that topic. As I said earlier, the average person is getting now about $1,980 a month. But what are you going to get for your Social Security? Because you're not average, I'm not average, none of us are average. So we want to see if we can get some clue. Well, Social Security Division has come up with a tool to help us guesstimate what you are going to get. It's a long link, and if I read it, it'll make you nuts. So they're in the show notes. Also, if you don't, we'll even want to look at the show notes when you ask us for this list of questions that you want to ask yourself. They're in there also. So again, the Social Security Division does have a link for a very, very simple program that will give you a guesstimate of how much your benefits will be when you're ready. Social Security also, and I want to bring this up, does allow you to not accept your payments as late as age 70. If you think you have a fairly long longevity, it's a very good idea to delay accepting Social Security benefits because the Social Security benefits increase the longer you delay it. So you can go to age 70. Hope maybe that will go up. So a lot of things I want you to think about. This is just going to help you begin to say, look, at my annual expenses are going to be X. My annual income from these plans that I have are going to be Y. X is greater than Y. How am I going to make those things work? Or if Y is greater than X, hey, wonderful. So we want you to ask questions, but I really want you to think about what you're going to do when you retire. Are you going to volunteer? Are you going to, learn how to play the piano, the violin, the harp, whatever you want? But you want to have a goal for retirement. Their old saying, and this is true, insurance companies would say it all the time. The old saying was, when you retire, your cost of living will drop by about 30%. You would ask, why is it going to drop by 30%? And the answer was, because you don't have to drive to work. To this day, I'm still trying to figure out what kind of car that person was driving, that it took 30% of his income to fill up the gas tank. So when we retire, we tend to spend as much as we're spending now, and in some cases more, because we want to travel, we want to enjoy ourselves, we want to do all kinds of things that we deserve to do. So this will help you get started.
So yeah, Dennis, these questions are really important to make sure that we are asking ourselves and just focusing on the future. And one thing that it sounds like there's some things that our listeners can control and other things we cannot control, right? So we cannot control what the cost of eggs are going to be, or again, the new furnace, property taxes, things like that. But what are some things that listeners can do now that would make them feel like they're in control of their retirement funds? What do you suggest that people who are maybe in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and even maybe just someone who's a little bit younger, because now people are looking to retire early.
Oh boy.
So, but what are some things that our listeners can do to have that feeling of control with their retirement funds?
We're going to do a presentation here shortly. That will be on in a few weeks. But it is about IRAs and investing your IRA. IRAs are a wonderful, wonderful tool because they allow you to invest, to build an unlimited retirement account. And you can even control when the income taxes are paid. It's really a terrific tool. But what happens if I don't have enough money in my IRA to make the investments that I want to make? And we're going to do a whole program on that coming up and talk about, I see this $150,000 opportunity, and my IRA only has $100,000 or $90,000. What do I do? I guess I'm blocked out. No, you're not. IRAs are very, very flexible.
So it sounds like the IRA could be another source of funds, of cash flow for our listeners. So whether it's Social Security, that savings account that you might have for retirement, which most people don't, but the IRA could be a great tool, like you said, to just help pay for some of these costs that we might not know what.
It's a wonderful tool. Even IRA Club has many, many IRA accounts for individuals that are over $1 million. Those people all have one thing in common, and I'm going to talk about it in the my next video.
Thank you so much for joining us today on our podcast. We talked about just some things to ask yourself before retiring. So that's going to be what your lifestyle is going to look like. Where do you plan on living? Where do you plan on traveling? Are you going to work part-time, maybe full-time, but probably not. So hopefully you could have time to volunteer and spend time with family and friends and pick up some new hobbies and skills. But it's also important that we take some time to crunch some numbers and make sure we are going to be enjoying these years fulfilled and happy and stress-free. So make sure that you visit us at iraclub.com/podcast, where you could find this list of questions and the link for the Social Security calculator, Dennis's ebook, and a lot more information. So make sure you visit us at iraclub.com/podcast.
The information contained herein is intended to help the viewer successfully navigate common IRS and Department of Labor requirements to help achieve successful results from their IRA. The information is not intended to replace information from your legal counsel or income tax professional. IRA Club does not offer or sell any investment. All investments have risk.